Hello everyone, this is Luis Castillo, and here I will be recording the lesson video for the Cognitive Code lesson plan. First thing off, I would like you to know my objective. Students will be able to talk about their daily routines and others' daily routines. For this, I will be teaching reflexive verbs in Spanish. This is a Spanish lesson. So in this video, I will be recording the teaching material part, where I deductively teach the grammar, and I do it in English. However, I would like you also to see in the lesson plan that I, as a cognitive lesson method, I also give plenty of opportunities for the students to practice in the target language and in a communicative way to practice the grammar principles. So I will be starting the lesson plan right now. Hola, estudiantes, ¿cómo están? Hoy vamos a estudiar los verbos reflexivos, reflexive verbs. ¿Qué es un verbo reflexivo? ¿O qué son los verbos reflexivos? Voy a explicar en inglés, ¿ok? Okay, here we have an example of a sentence with a reflexive verb. Yo me acuesto en la cama. I lay down on bed, or I get to bed. Yo me acuesto en la cama. So first thing we need to identify is the direct object. But what is a direct object? The direct object of a sentence is the one who receives the action. In this case, the action is, or the verb is acostar, so who is receiving the action? That's the question you gotta do to yourself to be able to find the direct object. Who is the receiver of the action? In this case, yo me acuesto en la cama. I receive the action. So the reflexive verb is used when the direct object is the same as the subject. Yo is the subject, and yo is the direct object also, because yo is receiving the action. I am laying on bed. I am getting to bed. Now, you see right here that to make this verb reflexive, you have to add a pronoun, special pronoun. I will talk about that in a bit. I just want to give you another example. Yo me asusto con las arañas. I get scared with spiders. Yo me asusto con las arañas. Who is receiving the action? Yo, again. Yeah, me. So, this is a reflexive verb too. To make it reflexive, you use the reflexive pronoun. Now we're going to talk about reflexive pronouns. So here we have the reflexive pronouns. Me for first person in singular, te for second person in singular, and se for third person in singular. Nos for first person in plural, os for second person in plural, and se for third person in plural. So let's see how they will actually look with the verbs. Acostarse, to lay down. So, as an infinitive, to make a verb reflexive, you add the suffix se to the end. That's how you know that it is reflexive. Me acuesto, te acuestas, se acuesta, nos acostamos, os acostáis, se acuestan. So as in other cases in Spanish, you don't need to use the actual pronoun. You can identify with the reflexive pronoun. You know that me acuesto, you're talking about yourself. Yo me acuesto. Tú te acuestas. Él or ella se acuesta. Nosotros nos acostamos. Vosotros os acostáis. Y ustedes se acuestan. Or ellos y ellas se acuestan. Now, also something important to notice here is that these verbs have a stem root change. That's something that we saw on a previous lesson. Now, here is another example. Vestirse, to get dressed. So vestirse doesn't have a steam change. So you could easily say, yo me visto, tú te vistes, él, ella se viste, nosotros nos vestimos, vosotros os vestís. Ustedes se visten y ellos y ellas se visten. Now, finally, I want you also to know that the reflexive verbs also work with indirect objects. Now, what are indirect objects? Indirect objects are the ones who indirectly receive the action of the verb. So they're not the direct receivers of the action, but the indirect receivers of the action. In this case, you don't ask who, but you ask what. What received the action? So let's look at an example. Ponerse, a reflexive verb, to put on. Los niños se ponen la ropa. The kids get their clothes on. That's how you say it in Spanish. Los niños se ponen la ropa. So right here we see the reflexive pronoun. So who is the receiver of the action? We know that poner is a verb, ponen. So the kids are the direct object, los niños. But who is the indirect object then? La ropa. They're manipulating the clothes. It is being affected too. So they actually also work with indirect objects. And here you have some examples of indirect objects. Ponerse works with article of clothing, la camisa. Yo me pongo la camisa, él se pone la camisa. Quitarse, to take off, also works with article of clothing. Yo me quito los zapatos, I take off my shoes. Lavarse, part of the body. Yo me lavo las manos. Quebrarse, part of the body too. Yo me quiebro los dedos, or la pierna, how it says here. And finally, romperse, part of the body. Yo me rompo los dedos. Seeing all these examples, you have to add the reflexive pronouns. That's what makes the difference with the reflexive verbs. So basically, the reflexive verbs are used to talk about something that happened to yourself, or something that happened to yourself, or happened by yourself, or something that happened to other person and by themselves. So, yeah. Ahora vamos a practicar.